Welcome to Live and Local, a talk show discussing the people, organizations, and events affecting the Iowa City area. I'm your host, Brian McConnell. Today we are with Habitat for Humanity of the Iowa Valley, and we're with Mark Patton, the Executive Director, and Scott McDonough of McDonough Structures and the Board President. Both of you, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Mark. A little history, how you got involved, and kind of what your role is there.
Well, a long time ago, I went to that other state institution twice.
We won't hold that against you.
Okay.
'Cause you're doing good.
I wore neutral colors today, and I got 2 degrees in agriculture and worked on a farm and found that the pigs could not carry their half of the conversation. So ever since then, 30 plus years, I've been doing either food or shelter work, nonprofits, and I've been with the local Habitat for about 12 years.
Oh, great. And what about you?
My story's not near as colorful, but
No pig conversations involved?
In a former life, I met Mark through, I have a construction company, and was interested in a kind of a unique type of building with SIP panels. Mark had a project in Durant? Wilton.
Explain what that is.
SIP.
SIPs are structural insulated panels.
Okay.
It's 2 sheets of plywood with foam laminated in between it, and very energy efficient, very strong.
Okay.
And we were interested in that, and so we went and toured Mark's facility, and so I knew him from that. And then when he became board director, he asked me to join. I liked the quality of houses that they built, and that's how I got into it.
Wonderful. What's a little background or history of Habitat for Humanity?
Well, most people think that Jimmy Carter started Habitat, which is not true.
Okay.
He came on the board later on. A fellow named Millard Fuller was in law school in the Deep South, and he and another guy named Morris Deese, who became famous heading up the Southern Law Poverty Center, while they were in law school, they started selling student supplies and made so much money they never had to practice law. So afterwards, they got rich, and Linda Fuller, Millard's wife, came up to him one day and says, "Millard, we have everything, cars, boats, everything, except happiness. I'm leaving you." So she took off for New York City. Millard followed her. They went to a minister for some counseling, and in essence, what the minister said, well, in the Bible it says, give it all away. So they gave it all away. They went on a mission trip to the Congo. While they were there, Millard looked around, he saw all these shacks, and he said, well, we could do something about that. And the mayor of Kinshasa gave them 2 blocks of land, and they built houses for a couple of years. After 4 years, he came back to Georgia and got off the plane, and he saw something he never saw before, shacks in Georgia. His eyes had been opened up, so when he came back, there was a place called Koinonia Farms, which was a intentional, interracial, ecumenical farm in Americus, Georgia. And they were getting killed because at that time in the late 50s, early 60s, the white establishment was not friendly. And Millard did a PR campaign. They were growing pecans. And so he did the first mass mailing in the United States to the people up north. And he said, the title of the card was, "Help us get rid of a few nuts." And there was a couple meanings to that. And from that, he looked around, he saw these shacks. And at Koinonia Farms, he started building houses. And one thing led to another. And 30-some years later, Habitat's in about 80 countries around the world. I think there's about 300,000 houses that have been built, and we build them one at a time, but as you aggregate them, you get more and more.
Wow, that's quite the history.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Talk a little bit about this specific, is it a chapter or how?
It's called an affiliate.
An affiliate, okay.
And we cover Johnson, Cedar, Iowa, and Washington counties.
Okay.
And primarily in the greater Iowa City area. It's easier to raise money, easier to get volunteers, but we do the outlying counties as well. We have a high school program in Tipton where we work with the shop kids and they help build a house. We moved a house to Kelowna this last Christmas, and we're getting ready to finish that up this spring and summer. We're building some new houses here in Iowa City. We're remodeling a house in Coralville, so it's a little bit of everything. Traditionally, the myth that goes out that is mistaken is that we give houses away. Mm-hmm. We don't. We sell them at cost. The real cost savings to families is that it's a zero interest mortgage. So we're both the builder and the banker.
Okay.
our average house cost with taxes and insurance, because our homeowners pay full taxes, it's about $650 a month to move into a new house. We do handicap ramps for people. We're a little bit limited on fundraising and time, but we do about a dozen ramps a year.
Okay.
We can make some houses handicap accessible. We're starting a small repair program. One of the great demands out there that we can't even touch is there's about 3,000 mobile homes in Johnson County alone, and they're slowly deteriorating, and it's very difficult to fix those, and we don't know what will happen when they finally go away.
Scott, as far as your involvement, other than being a board member, what other things do you bring to it? Obviously, you have the construction background, but kind of what's your role in that?
Well, when Mark's talking about affordability, not only to buy the house, to build the house, but it's also what happens to it afterwards, as far as the energy efficiency, durability. So that's one thing that we're very, very proud of, is the type of house that we built. The quality is very good, meaning that the energy efficiency, the monthly usage of utilities is very, very low, very affordable. So if you think about your monthly expenses of a mortgage, utility, everything, if you package that all together and think of that as one number, and you can get your utility bill very low, it's a very good thing.
Absolutely.
And same with durability. You know, if you can build it so that there's very little maintenance on it, and it lasts a long time without having to do a lot of expensive stuff, that's what we're striving for.
Neat. Go ahead.
Yeah, to follow up on that, there's kind of a backwards way to look at this, and I say this, I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but it's just the way it is out there. So builders build to make a profit, which is understandable. We try to break even, but because we're concerned about the utility costs for the families, we'll put an extra $5,000 or $6,000 into a house with better insulation, better heating and cooling. And it's the low-hanging fruit out there, because once we build a house right, if that house lasts 75 or 100 years, their utility bills will be a third lower every year for that 75 or 100 years. The problem in our greater economy is that builders don't have incentives to build beyond the minimum. So they'll build up to the energy code, but nothing beyond that, because normally appraisers don't appraise for it. So if they put an extra $5,000 in their house, they may not get paid back because the appraiser doesn't know it. So it's something that a governmental policy should look at and say, how do we incentivize developers to do it better? If every new house we built for an extra $5,000 used 20 to 25% less energy the rest of their lives, it would save on coal and pollution and climate change, I mean everything. And it's the low-hanging fruit that we're really missing out on a big opportunity.
So I know there's incentives for furnaces and geothermal and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are pretty small. So what is it that you're doing differently than those type of things? And usually those are the homeowners upgrades where the tax credit comes in or whatever.
Right.
So is that the main difference, that you're just doing that from the start?
Yeah.
Not the geothermal? But.
Well, no, we don't do geothermal,
Right.
but we do about 50% more insulation in the walls and the roof.
And specifically foam insulation.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is it's an expensive upgrade, but so when you're asking about the bells and whistles and stuff, it's really kind of boring. It's just insulation, sealing it up very tight.
Sealing it. And caulk, I don't know if your listeners believe me or not, but if they're building a house and they're having a contractor, either they go out at night or they ask the contractor to go out and caulk every crack, because I'll give you the example. When you buy insulation, it's a R12, R20, whatever, and R stands for resistance. And when they test insulation in an airtight chamber, there's no wind on it. The moment they put wind on it, the R starts dropping. And so that's the resistance to leakage. If you seal all the cracks, your leakage drops. So even though you have great insulation, if you don't seal all the cracks, maybe your contractor was doing a great job but forgot to caulk everything, then you've lost a lot of that savings. So we have a lot of volunteers. We caulk everything. We go crazy with the caulk. It's the cheapest, easiest fix for energy efficiency out there.
As far as the volunteers, I've been part of several different builds just through our office, and I know my first thought is, when I was a kid, I did some roofing. I did a couple odd jobs, but I'm like, I'm an insurance agent. I don't know how to build this stuff. I know how to protect it. But I was like, I don't know how I could be of value. But you get there. Talk about that in the process. You have professionals there
Yes.
with you for every question. And they find tasks that you can handle and you really do contribute. Can you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit? And
What I like to say is that volunteers are important the first third and the last third of the house. So for the framing, we'll teach how to frame or how to put up SIP walls, how to put up the rafters, how to shingle, how to side, how to put in the windows. Then we have the volunteers go away for a while because then the licensed electricians and heating and cooling and plumbers come in and they do their thing. And I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but we also hire the sheetrocking done because I've had volunteers do sheetrock in the past and it isn't pretty. So we want this house to be nice. So we hire the taping done. Volunteers come back in and after that's done to paint, to hang trim, to hang cabinets, to landscape, to do all of the last bit of the house. And we will teach all those skills to people. We can't have kids under 16 on the site using tools. Our insurance doesn't allow it. But we do have kids under 16 help with the landscaping and planting and whatnot outdoors. We try to make it a family-friendly environment. And I'll tell this one real quick story.
Yeah.
So we got this nice donation one day from a doctor. And we don't get that many donations from doctors. And I was kind of surprised. So I called him up and I says, "What made you give to us?" And he said, "Well, a year ago," he says, "I took my 16-year-old daughter out on a build, and it was the best day we ever had together."
oh, that's neat.
And so what we did a construction here a few years ago with Hills Bank, and they only allowed their employees and their board members on the build site. And what was great was the tellers were ordering the bank president around. And it was just a reestablishment of relationships and sort of renewing of fellowship that came out of that.
Yeah, that's a good team building exercise as we've experienced as well. Other than just locally, you also have some global projects too.
Correct.
And how does the Iowa Valley contribute or help with that?
In two major ways. We tithe 10% of our undesignated gifts to international work. And we can pick any one of the 80 countries where Habitat's located. Nothing comes off the top from our part or from Habitat International. It goes directly to the country. And roughly, for 10% of what we raise here, we can build a house here for a house there because it costs so much less in a developing country. So we tithe, and I just got a report that over our 23-year history, we've tithed about $350,000 to third world countries. Built more than 117 houses according to Habitat's calculation. The second way is anybody can sign up for a Habitat work project. I've led trips the last 2 years to Nicaragua. We happen to pick the trips to go in either January or February because it's warmer in Nicaragua than here. And we do masonry there. None of us have masonry skills, but we haul the sand and we haul the gravel and we haul the cement. And we do a lot of grunt work. But what it does is it really helps people get another view of simple housing. And we think, our 1,300 square foot house is simple. In Nicaragua, we're building a 2-room house that's 10 by 20 with no running water, and it's a vast improvement over what they have. So it gives you a new perspective on wealth in the world, I think.
Yeah. Like those international trips, is that something where those volunteers, there's a cost that they incur as far as transportation and other things as well?
So, depending on the country, it'll cost somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500, and that pays for the room and board and everything in country. Then they have to buy their own ticket. Jimmy Carter, who I mentioned, he takes a week off every year and does a Habitat build. And so some of the audience wants to go with him this year. He's going, if you can imagine, the 92, 93-year-old guy to Nepal to build up in the mountains. And you go to the Habitat International website, you can see 3 or 4 trips every month going out that you can sign up for.
Wow, that is neat. Scott, since you've been involved, how long have you been involved on the board?
I came on in 2010.
Oh, right.
10 or 11.
So you've been there for a little while.
A little bit.
What have you learned the most, I guess, since you've been there? Whether you had misconceptions or just through going through the board
I'm not
meetings?
sure I had misconceptions. I think I knew what I was getting in for. Again, I did it mostly for the construction end of it. We also help out quite a bit with the design part of the houses. for the appeasing the cities with different drafting needs. But by far the rewarding thing is seeing the people move into the houses on opening day. I mean, it's very emotional. It makes you be proud to be involved with it.
That's neat. I know along with, like you said, it's not something, they don't get a free house.
No.
They pay for it. And they also have to put some sweat equity in there too.
Yeah.
Explain how that works.
We require 50 hours of sweat equity before we finalize their contract. That is to say, they have to do 50 hours per adult before we say, yeah, we can get you into a house. Then after that, they have to do another 400 hours of sweat equity, building their house or somebody else's house or working in our restore. And what that does is it's a substitute for a cash down payment.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it's all said and done, they may only have $500 out of pocket to get into their own home. But day one, they start paying on a 20 or 25-year mortgage back to us. That money comes back very slowly with zero interest, but that money then gets plowed back into other houses. So I call it the best legal pyramid scheme out there.
Yeah.
You give $1 once, it keeps coming back and coming back and coming back.
So you finance it? It's not with local lenders or anything?
Yeah, traditionally we have to raise the money and finance it. We're getting spread a little bit thin, so in some cases we're trying to partner with some financing companies to blend it, but we still, our goal is affordable housing. And we really haven't talked about that definition because that can be confusing to people. So what I like to say are two really basic points. One is that everybody needs housing,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody needs to pay for housing. And if you start with that, you say, well, okay, all right, I agree. And you say, well, what's affordable? And affordable means you don't pay more than 30% of your income.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're making $10,000 or $100,000, you don't pay more than 30%. Well, the challenge is if somebody says making minimum wage, single mom making minimum wage, they might not be able to afford more than $350 or $400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, try to find a good, decent rent for that. In the greater Iowa City, can't do it. So we work with a few families every year. We go through classes. We have HUD certified financial counselors that work with them in budgeting. And we'll put 6 to 7 or 8 families per year into housing, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it chips away at it. Just in the last week or two, the crime statistics came out. And would you know it, we've been building mostly in southeast Iowa City, and
Mm-hmm.
the crime statistics have gone 38% drop in crime in southeast Iowa City. Now, we don't want to take all the credit. The police, have done a
Take
lot
it.
of work.
Take it.
Yeah, okay. But stability comes with housing, vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Kids do better in school, irrespective of their income. If they're in ownership housing, they do 30% in math and reading. They're not moving. They're not changing. They're not always making new friends and teachers. And
I saw that statistic, and that's amazing what just stability can provide
Yes.
to a family. And luckily I was raised in a middle-class family, certainly nothing extravagant, but I didn't have to worry about my meal, and I didn't have to worry
Right.
about packing up and moving and stuff like that. And it's just things that you don't think about unless you've experienced it or
Yes.
you've seen it.
yeah, so we get them in, and we give them a chance. And for 7 years, we restrict what they can do with the house. They can't just sell it, make a profit, or any of that. After that, they're free to do anything they want as long as they keep paying their mortgage. And what I say to our families is, you have 2 obligations to it. You have to pay your mortgage, and you have to have the nicest looking front yard on the block. Because that's the only time I hear from anybody if they complain about the front yard or the driveway. The other thing that's really important that is an issue that would be good for another show for the schools or somebody. We would qualify 10 times more families than we get applying, except that most of the native-born families don't understand finance. They have bad credit, they don't pay their bills, they don't understand credit scores. On the flip side, the immigrant community around here is scared of credit. They don't want to extend themselves. They work 2 jobs, they've got their family as their focus. And as a result, more than 80% of the families we end up serving are immigrant families. And they're not going anywhere. They put the roots down and they're not moving.
Right, that's very interesting. How many, I think you mentioned, how many are built in your
Our
area
territory?
a year?
Yeah, 6 to 7 new houses.
Okay.
And then this year we'll remodel 3 or 4 more. And then we'll do about a dozen ramps. We have a restore, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Where people, if they have excess furniture, appliances, if they're remodeling, tell your remodeler to not, break those cabinets down. Either set them aside and call our restore and we'll come pick them up, or they can deliver it, and either the homeowner or the contractor gets a letter from us saying that it's tax donation. We don't care, but the restore is open to the public. Anybody can come shop.
Is Heath Brewer over there?
Heath Brewer's the manager.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah, known him
It's kind of
a
a
long
fun
time.
place. We think it's going to be on the Chamber of Commerce's destination list in the future because people just have fun when
Yeah.
they drop in. Wednesday through Sunday are shopping hours. And I hope your audience sees this, but Coralville and North Liberty doesn't even know where we're located. Scott Boulevard's like, is that in Muscatine County? I don't know. So we're trying to appeal to a wider audience, and we're trying to get them to not throw so much stuff in the landfill. We can sell it. All the sales, net sales, go to build more houses.
Well, we moved from North Liberty to Coralville, and
Yep.
we did bring a lot of stuff
Thank
to the
you.
restore. So North Liberty does know about
Was it a good experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very friendly people. It
Yeah.
was just a great overall
It
experience.
is amazing what they will take and what they can, it's the old adage, one man's trash is another
That's
one's
right.
treasure. And
Well, and even the TVs, the old ones that you
Yeah.
can't get rid of, they'll take the same cost that it would be to take to the landfill,
Yep.
like so $15 or $12
Yep.
or whatever, and it's a headache off of your
We
hands
do that
too.
as a service for the city, yeah.
Okay, so that's nice.
one of
Maybe
my
don't
favorite
encourage
stories
that.
with that is we were re-siding a house. We took 20-year-old vinyl siding off of a house. I called Heath, asked him if he'd take it. He goes, yeah, I think we could probably sell it. He sold it that day for $400. Otherwise we would have taken it to recycling, but somebody got some more value out of it, and it was good.
That's awesome. As we're starting to wind down a little bit, I want to make sure we get in a plug for some events that are coming up.
Yeah, this year we're doing our first ever memorial build, and the exciting thing about that is, when people lose a loved one, it could be this year or 5 years ago, what do they do? And oftentimes people are lost. So we're starting a memorial build. We hope to make it an annual affair. It'll start on Memorial Day. We'll have an ecumenical service, and then we'll have a wall build on Memorial Day. But the point is, we're going to keep the gifts local. It's going to build something that's real. It doesn't disappear into a pot that you never see again. It's going to benefit families for a long time. You can drive by it every day the rest of your life and know that your gift is keeping on giving back. So that's an exciting thing. We have a women's build coming up in August. This year it's named after Mary Palmberg, who's an activist in the community, and that house will be built up on Prairie du Chien. With our memorial build, we were doing our first zero lot line house. We'll do a Thrivent build, Thrivent Financial, which is one of our biggest supporters. We're doing a build in Kelowna for a veteran. We're doing 2 houses out in Tipton, so we have a lot going on. They go to our website, iowavalleyhabitat.org. There's an electronic sign up. Any Saturday, actually Thursday through Saturday, you can just see what we're doing, where we're doing, and sign up electronically.
And I can vouch that it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I mean, you do get your hands dirty. It is work,
Yes.
but it's a lot of fun,
Yes.
especially if you're doing it with a group of friends or
That's
whatever. And the people leading it will keep you in line, though.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're tough.
But it's it is a lot of fun.
Free snacks.
What's that?
Free snacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had sub sandwiches, and we also had some sloppy joes, I think, last time, but it was
Yeah.
really good. As we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, also on that website, you can find a way to apply if you're looking
Yes.
to become a recipient or.
Yeah. So if you want to qualify to become a Habitat homeowner, you have to start off, we verify income and credit and all that, but your income has to be below 60% of the area median income. You can go on our website and see what that is. Above that, we may be doing some homes later on this year for people up to 80%. So that'll be a whole new thing we can't announce yet, but we're trying to widen it out because it's really, really, really tough to find a starter home that's less than $150,000 these days.
So just have about 30 seconds or so. A quick story about just something really that touched either one of you a lot.
Yeah, a couple years ago we did a women's build for Elizabeth Bernal, who was a single mom, Hispanic woman. She came out of a domestic abuse shelter. She was living in a mobile home that was falling apart. Her oldest girl remembers the night that she went into labor with their 4th child and had to have the baby there on the floor of the bathroom in the mobile home because the EMTs couldn't get their bed through there. She's very motivated. She probably has a 6th grade education, but her kids are going to do better than her. So we built a house two doors away from City High. She works in the kitchen at City High School. Her first daughter, Blanca, is just finishing her freshman year at the University of Iowa. And that's the kind of success story that our families show all the time.
That is awesome. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately time's up.
Have us back.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark and Scott, thank you so much for joining us. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we are out of time. And now we're going to be going to a live on-site interview at one of the job sites. So for PATV Channel 18, I'm your host, Brian McConnell, saying thanks for watching, and please be sure to join us on your neighborhood network every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for the latest episode of Live and Local. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night.
My name is Sherry Cool Rudd. I am a Habitat for Humanity partner family with Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity. And this year I am fortunate to be working in a government grant position known as AmeriCorps, which is the Domestic Peace Corps. A lot of my joy in what I do now is helping other families achieve the home ownership that our own family has benefited from, and that my husband and I will say how amazing it is that this dream really came true for us. And it's still hard to wrap your mind around the wonderful gift it is to have property ownership for a working class family. One part of the community aspect that we have really benefited from, our neighborhood is pretty much all Habitat homes, which makes this neat phenomenon where if someone has an issue like a car repair needs to happen, you'll find all the dads from the various families will come out. One person has a tool, one person has some knowledge, expertise, and they put their efforts together and get that car going again. It's a real working together kind of situation. When we make an investment in Habitat here in our community, it's not just for right now. The homes we build are looking toward the future as far as building the best quality, above code, and the most energy efficient homes in our area. One thing that Habitat for Humanity in general is very committed to nationwide is building green. That translates directly into freeing up funds for working class families so that they can save on average 30% on their utility costs when they move into their new Habitat home. Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity right here in Iowa City has an Iowa City Restore. It's very exciting what they are able to accomplish. We welcome everyone to donate their items when you're doing your spring cleaning and getting all that stuff out of your garage or your storage shed. Give us a call. We have a truck that'll come around and pick it up. The Restore has now become so successful, they are able to cover all the costs for administration costs in our office, at our local affiliate office, as well as generate enough funds each year to cover the cost of an entire build of a house. So we are looking for the future to be even more exciting with our partnership with the Restore. Another amazing thing they are able to do is divert items away from our landfill. Each year they have been able to keep about 500 tons of refuse out of the landfill. The types of things that we accept there at the Restore are your building supplies, your furniture from at home, old sinks and cabinetry, trim work, flooring. There's a hardware area for those who need tools. And you never quite know what you're going to find there. We really want to promote their efforts and share how proud and excited we are of our very own Restore. And you are all invited to come and shop and donate and get involved with what we do.